AITA for not finding my husband attractive after childbirth because he gained weight and stopped trying? I'm 31F and I need outside perspective because my husband thinks I'm being cruel and my mom says I'm being shallow. My husband Derek is 33, we've been married for 5 years, together for 8, we have a daughter named Emma who just turned 1. I love Derek, he's kind and supportive and a good father, but I'm struggling with something I don't know how to address. During my pregnancy Derek gained what people call sympathy weight, he put on about 30 pounds over those 9 months. I didn't say anything because I was gaining weight too obviously, I figured after the baby came we'd both get back to normal. I had Emma via C-section, the recovery was brutal, I was exhausted and in pain for weeks. By the time Emma was 3 months old I started working out again, nothing intense, just walks with a stroller and some yoga at home. I was breastfeeding which helped with weight loss. By 6 months postpartum I was back to my pre-pregnancy weight. It wasn't easy, I was sleep deprived and stressed, but I made it a priority because I wanted to feel like myself again. Derek on the other hand kept gaining weight. He's now about 55 pounds heavier than when we first met. He stopped going to the gym completely, he says he's too tired after work. He works as an accountant, he gets home around 6, we have dinner, then he sits on the couch watching TV or playing video games until he falls asleep around 10. On weekends he sleeps in until 9 or 10, then spends most of the day on his computer or watching sports. He rarely helps with Emma unless I specifically ask him to. I've tried to be understanding, I know having a baby is an adjustment for both parents. But I'm tired too, I work full-time as a marketing coordinator making about $61,000 a year, I handle most of the childcare, I do the cooking and cleaning. And I still make time to exercise and take care of myself. Derek has also stopped putting effort into his appearance. He used to dress nicely, he'd wear cologne, he'd get regular haircuts. Now he wears the same ratty t-shirts and sweatpants every evening, he hasn't gotten a haircut in probably 4 months, he's growing a beard but doesn't trim it so it just looks messy. I've tried to bring this up gently. About 2 months ago I suggested we start going to the gym together, that we could take turns watching Emma or hire a babysitter for an hour. He said he wasn't interested, that he was fine with how he looked. I asked if he'd consider just going for walks with me and Emma in the evenings. He said he was too tired from work. Last month I bought him some nice new clothes for his birthday, hoping it would encourage him to dress better. He thanked me but I haven't seen him wear them. 2 weeks ago I tried a different approach. I told him I was worried about his health, that gaining that much weight that quickly wasn't good for him. He got defensive, he said I was body shaming him, that I should love him no matter what he looks like. I told him I do love him, but that I'm concerned. He said I was being shallow. Here's where I might be the problem. 3 days ago we were getting ready for bed, Derek tried to initiate intimacy. We haven't been intimate in about 6 weeks, between work and the baby I've been exhausted, but honestly part of it is that I'm not attracted to him right now. When he touched me I pulled away. He asked what was wrong. I didn't want to hurt his feelings but I was tired of dancing around it. I told him I wasn't in the mood. He pressed, he said I'm never in the mood anymore. He asked if I still found him attractive. I hesitated too long. He said just say it. I told him honestly that I was struggling with the physical attraction, that it wasn't just the weight but the fact that he'd stopped trying, that he didn't seem to care about his appearance or health. I said I'd given birth to our daughter, gone through major surgery, recovered, lost the baby weight, and still managed to take care of myself. I said I needed him to put in some effort too. He got really quiet. Then he said I was being incredibly hurtful, that he couldn't believe I'd say something so cruel. He slept in the guest room that night. The next morning he barely spoke to me. When I got home from work yesterday he'd apparently called his mother and told her what happened. His mom called me and said I should be ashamed of myself, that Derek is a wonderful husband and father, that I'm being vain and selfish. I tried to explain my perspective but she wouldn't listen. Then my own mother called, Derek had apparently reached out to her too. My mom said I was being too harsh, that marriage means accepting your partner through changes, that appearance shouldn't matter. I told her it's not just appearance, it's the lack of effort, the fact that I'm doing everything while he's checked out. She said I'm being unreasonable, that he works hard and deserves to relax. Now I'm second-guessing myself. Derek is still barely talking to me, he comes home and goes straight to the guest room. Emma can sense the tension, she's been clingy and fussy. I don't know if I was wrong to be honest with him. Part of me thinks I should have just kept my mouth shut, but another part of me is frustrated that I'm expected to maintain everything while he lets himself go. I'm attracted to effort, to someone who cares about themselves and their health. Is that shallow? My friends are split, some say I have every right to expect him to take care of himself, others say I'm being judgmental. I love Derek, I want our marriage to work, but I don't know how to move forward from this. AITA for telling my husband I'm not attracted to him anymore because he gained weight and stopped trying? Update, 4 weeks later. I'm updating because the situation has developed in ways I didn't expect and I need to document what's happened. After my original post the comments were mixed, Some people said I was being honest and that physical attraction matters in a marriage. Others said I was shallow and cruel. I read everything and tried to process the feedback. The week after our fight, Derek continued sleeping in the guest room. We barely spoke except about logistics with Emma. His mother called me twice more, each time telling me I needed to apologize. I refused. I didn't think I should apologize for being honest about my feelings. On day 8 of the silent treatment, I came home from work to find Derek's parents in our living room. They'd driven up from Raleigh without telling me. Apparently Derek had invited them. His father Mark pulled me aside and said they needed to have a family conversation. We all sat down. Emma was in her playpen. Derek's mother Linda started by saying that Derek had been devastated by what I said, that he'd been struggling with depression since Emma was born. This was the first I'd heard about depression. I asked Derek why he hadn't told me. He said he'd tried to bring it up a few times but I was always too busy or tired to really listen. I felt awful. I tried to remember conversations we'd had. There were moments where he'd seemed down but I'd attributed it to new parent exhaustion. Linda said Derek had gained weight because he'd been stress eating, that he'd stopped going to the gym because he felt overwhelmed. She said my comments about his appearance had made everything worse. I tried to explain that I'd been struggling too, that I'd been carrying most of the household and childcare responsibilities. Mark said that wasn't Derek's fault, that some women are just naturally better at multitasking. I was stunned. I told them that was an incredibly sexist thing to say, that Derek was Emma's parent too and should be contributing equally. Linda said I was being difficult, that I should be grateful Derek works hard to provide for our family. I pointed out that I also work full-time and make a decent salary. The conversation devolved into an argument. Derek's parents insisted I owed him an apology. I refused. They left angry. That night Derek and I finally talked. I asked him if he was really depressed or if that was something his mother had exaggerated. He admitted he'd been feeling down but that he hadn't sought help or been diagnosed. I asked why he hadn't talked to me about it. He said he didn't think I'd understand, that I seemed to have everything together. I told him I was struggling too, that new parenthood was hard for both of us. We talked for about 2 hours. It was the most we'd communicated in months. I apologized for the way I'd phrased things. I told him I shouldn't have been so blunt about the attraction issue. He apologized for withdrawing and not pulling his weight around the house. We agreed to try couples therapy. I found a therapist named Dr. Patterson who specializes in postpartum relationship issues. We had our first session a week after that conversation. Dr. Patterson asked us each to describe our experience of the past year. Derek talked about feeling overwhelmed at work, about struggling to bond with Emma, about feeling like he'd lost his identity. I talked about the physical recovery from childbirth, about feeling alone and managing the household, about losing intimacy in our marriage. Dr. Patterson said a lot of what we were experiencing was normal but that we'd stopped communicating effectively. She gave us homework. We were supposed to have a 30-minute check-in every evening where we talked about our feelings without judgment. The first few check-ins were awkward but they got easier. Derek admitted he'd been avoiding helping with Emma because he felt incompetent compared to me. I told him the only way to get better was to practice, that I wasn't naturally good at it either. We created a schedule where Derek handles Emma's morning routine on weekends while I sleep in, and I handle bedtime on weeknights while he has time to himself. It's been helping. Derek also finally went to see his regular doctor about 3 weeks ago. The doctor ran some blood tests and found that Derek has hypothyroidism, which can cause weight gain and fatigue. Derek started medication for it. He also agreed to see a therapist individually to address the depression symptoms. He's had 3 sessions so far with a counselor named Mr. Brooks. As for the weight and appearance issue, we had a long conversation about it in therapy. I explained that it wasn't about him being a certain size, it was about feeling like he'd given up on himself. He explained that he'd been so focused on just surviving each day that self-care had fallen completely off his radar. We agreed that we'd both prioritize health, not appearance. Derek started going for walks during his lunch break at work, just 20 minutes, nothing intense. I joined a postpartum fitness class that meets twice a week in the evenings. Derek watches Emma during that time. We're not where we used to be physically or emotionally, but we're trying. The intimacy is still difficult. We've been intimate twice in the past month. It's not frequent but it's progress. Dr. Patterson says rebuilding attraction takes time, especially after the kind of honesty we had. Derek's parents haven't apologized for their intervention. We're keeping them at arm's length for now. My mom called to check in. She admitted she might have been too quick to judge, that she didn't understand how much I was managing. Overall things are slowly improving. Final update, 6 months later. I'm writing this final update from a very different place than where I started, both literally and emotionally. After my last update, Derek and I continued with couples therapy for 3 more months. Dr. Patterson helped us establish better communication patterns and divide household responsibilities more equally. Derek's individual therapy with Mr. Brooks also continued. He was eventually diagnosed with moderate depression and started on medication about 2 months after my last update. The combination of thyroid medication and antidepressants made a noticeable difference in his energy levels. He started being more present with Emma, taking her to the park on weekends, doing bath time every night. He also started exercising more consistently, not obsessively, just regular walks and some light weightlifting at home. He's lost about 20 pounds over the past 6 months, not because I pressured him but because he said he wanted to feel better. I appreciated the effort. For a while things seemed like they were genuinely improving. But then about 3 months ago I discovered something that changed everything. I was doing laundry and found a receipt in Derek's jeans pocket. It was from a restaurant in downtown Charlotte, dated from 2 weeks earlier on a Wednesday. Derek had told me he was working late that Wednesday. I felt suspicious. I checked our credit card statements online. There were multiple charges I didn't recognize, restaurants, a hotel, things that didn't make sense. I confronted Derek that evening after Emma was in bed. I showed him the receipt and asked him to explain. He claimed it was a work dinner with clients. I asked why he'd lied about working late. He said he didn't lie, that the dinner was work-related. I asked about the hotel charge. He went pale. I asked him directly if he was having an affair. He denied it at first, then when I showed him all the charges he finally admitted that he'd been meeting up with a woman named Jennifer. Jennifer was someone he'd met through an online support group for people dealing with depression. He said they'd started messaging, then moved to phone calls, then decided to meet in person. He claimed they'd only met 3 times, that nothing physical had happened. I asked about the hotel. He admitted they'd gotten a room but swore they just talked, that he needed someone who understood what he was going through. I didn't believe him. I asked to see his phone. He refused. That refusal told me everything I needed to know. I told him to leave, to go stay with his parents or get a hotel, that I needed space. He begged me not to overreact, said he'd end things with Jennifer immediately, that it was a mistake. I told him the mistake was lying to me for months while I was working on our marriage. He packed a bag and left. The next day I called Dr. Patterson and had an emergency session. She said I needed to decide what I was willing to accept in the marriage. I spent a week thinking. Derek called multiple times, sent long apologetic texts. He admitted that things with Jennifer had been physical, that they'd slept together twice. He said it meant nothing, that he was confused and made terrible choices. I felt numb. After a week I told Derek I wanted a separation. He begged me to reconsider, said we'd made so much progress. I told him that progress was built on honesty and he'd destroyed that. We agreed he'd move out temporarily. He found an apartment about 15 minutes away. We created a custody schedule for Emma. She stays with me during the week and with Derek on weekends. It's been 3 months since he moved out. Derek has continued therapy. He says he's working on understanding why he made those choices. He's asked multiple times if there's a chance of reconciliation. I honestly don't know. The betrayal cut deep, especially because I'd been working so hard to fix our marriage. I'd been honest about my feelings even though it was difficult, and he'd responded by lying and cheating. Part of me wonders if my initial comments about his appearance pushed him toward Jennifer. My therapist, I started seeing someone individually, says that's not fair to myself. She says Derek made his own choices, that my honesty about attraction didn't give him permission to cheat. I'm trying to believe that. Emma is adjusting to the new arrangement. She's too young to understand, but I know this will affect her. I'm looking into divorce lawyers, just consultations for now. Derek wants to try marriage counseling again, but I'm not ready. Financially, the separation has been difficult. We're splitting costs for Emma, but maintaining 2 households is expensive. I'm managing, but I've had to cut back on some expenses. My mom has been more supportive this time. She apologized for not taking my concerns seriously earlier. She's been helping with Emma when Derek has her on weekends and I need a break. Derek's parents blamed me initially, said if I hadn't been so critical about his weight none of this would have happened. I stopped taking their calls. As for me, I'm honestly just trying to survive each day. Some days I'm angry, some days I'm sad, some days I feel relieved that I don't have to pretend everything is okay. I've been focusing on Emma, on work, on rebuilding my sense of self outside of being Derek's wife. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe Derek and I will eventually reconcile, maybe we'll divorce. Right now I'm just taking it one day at a time. I don't regret being honest about the attraction issue. I do regret that I didn't see the deeper problems in our marriage sooner. But I'm learning that you can't fix a relationship when only one person is being honest.